Welcome to the Spiritual Artist Podcast. This is Chris Miller. I invite you to join me as I interview artists from a variety of disciplines. We'll share powerful stories and lessons learned while making their art. Good day, this is CJ Miller. I'm the host of the Spiritual Artist Podcast and the channel, the Spiritual Artist Podcast on YouTube. I want to follow up with an Asemic writing video that I did about 1.5 years ago that was very popular. And I want to give you an exercise where you can practice Asemic writing to music. That's right. Use the activity of Asemic writing to help you explore your creativity to music. And I'll tell you more about that. But let me tell you about how I've processed since I did that first video. You can look down below and look up and watch the first video if you haven't seen it already. This is about what Asemic writing is and what it means to me. And I think we have realized that everybody has a different definition of everything. Words are only so effective. But for me, Asemic writing is a way of tapping into the native language, your unique creative DNA that's within you, as a starting point when creating an abstract painting. And back in that video, I referenced Creative and Mental Growth. This is a teacher's book, a manual by Lowenfeld and Britton, and it talks about the creative process and why and how children, they found out that children lose that connection to that inside voice. It's sort of beat out of them by the time they're 10 or 12, and they're forced to conform to society around them. I thought that was fascinating. As an artist, for me to discover what is unique about my work and what makes me a unique artist, I had to go all the way back to being that child that would sit there and color with crayons and markers and feel this free sense of abandon. Those marks are unique to me. I do Asemic writing exercises, all sorts of repetitions and exercises at my art retreats. And I'm having one in May in Santa Fe. You can check it out at spiritualartisttoday.com. But we do these exercises as warm-up exercises to get in touch and relax and try to get your head, that's right, get your mind out of the picture so that you can be creative and make these marks. You can be a mark-making master on the paper. So I want to talk to you about another book that I have found to be very inspirational. I love looking at books from other disciplines. Paul Baker's Integration of Abilities. This is not a well-known book. He is a Dallas theater teacher. He's now gone past, but he wrote this incredible book because he believed that a true artist integrates their whole selves into what they do. And he would teach acting by including writing and poetry and dance and movement all together. Because when one of those skill sets moves ahead, they all move ahead. And that's why I like this Asemic writing exercise I'm going to tell you about in a minute. So I want you to get a tablet like this, a cheap tablet that you can scribble in. It can have a spiral bound or it could be pages, but I want you to be able to flip the page quickly, not a big sheet. And you know what? I know in my first video I recommended Neo Colors. They're a nice marking tool, but they're a little more expensive. And for this exercise, to let yourself really be creative, I want you to go out and treat yourself to one of these old-fashioned boxes of crayons. I'll tell you why. Do you remember when you were a kid and you had 64 or 130 colors to pick from? And I'm dumping them out here because I want you to dump them out in front of your workspace when you do this exercise. I want you to feel free that you can grab whatever color you feel in the moment. But what's so neat about them is all the different shades of color and how we can react to it when we do this Asemic drawing / doodling project. So make sure you go and have a tablet like this and a box of crayons. And we'll tell you a little bit more about that in a minute. So I want to tell you about Paul Baker's book here because it was so wonderful for me. And he talks about this exercise. And so let me read this to you. You want to have a great deal of physical, muscular freedom because that's what this exercise is all about. Your motor response. And please underline those words. Motor response is the important element in this exercise. It is based on motor responses. We don't want it based on intellectual ones. I want you, when you do Asemic writing, to come from not only that unique spirit in you, but I want you to come from your body. I want you to feel your whole self when you do it. And so he is referencing that in this book where he talks about the importance of movement and getting your body into it. A lot of people will go out and do calisthenics or stretches or jog or walk before they go and create art. On my retreats, we do all kinds of things. You have to sign up for them, but we do all kinds of things with movement first or while we are working. And so here's what he says. The premise is that your muscles are fairly honest. I'm going to read that again. The premise is that your muscles are fairly honest. And what we're going to do is based on listening to the way your muscular reactions speak to you. It is based on your going back to recapturing that joy of movement. It is based on recapturing the joy of throwing a ball, the joy of catching one, the joy of physical movement through space. I'm referring to the joy of coloring when you were a child. I used to go down the street and sit with my next door neighbor, Cheryl, and we would sit on her patio and we would color for hours. Long before we were forced to color in a coloring book. See, a coloring book is just one more example of how we're forced to conform and look at the world within these boundaries. Before that, as a child, we might interpret a tree in a very free-flowing way. But soon, as Lowenfeld and Britton tell us, we are told that no, trees must be upright, and they must be rooted in the ground, and they must have brown trunks, and they must, all those musts. It's erasing that creative DNA in you. It's pulling you away from who you are. My goal as a spiritual guide, as an art teacher, is to help you find out and discover who you are. One thing I like to emphasize is I get very frustrated when I see people imitating the styles of others. And that's all that we have. Mostly that is what is taught in all the art schools. They sit you down and they have a class where they teach you to be like Picasso. They teach you to do something like Matisse. And this is great. There's something to learn by looking at how they process their work. But that should come later. First, you have to find out who you are. First, you have to discover, who am I? And then you can incorporate Matisse, or you can incorporate Jackson Pollock's freehand stroking. But first, you have to let yourself express and know who you are. That's what this Asemic music writing exercise is about. So I'm excited to tell you that we are going to be doing these Asemic repetitions to music. At the end of this video, I have a QR code. It's a Spotify QR code. You can download the app for free on your phone. You scan the code and it will pull up my playlist. And I have about 7 songs on there. This exercise should take you maybe 45 minutes max. Each song you listen to while you draw. Okay? So here's the idea. You sit down, you get everything ready, and let's talk about what you need to do. I want you to find a calm space, a sacred space where you won't be interrupted. This is a great activity for Saturday or Sunday morning when the rest of the house is asleep and you have time. Create a nice space. Then I want you to center yourself. It's very important when you go into your work studio that you take a moment and you listen to the silence. And you breathe in, maybe to a count of 4. Hold it for the same count, and then let it out. I want you to do that 3 times. Breathe in, hold it, let out. So now you're in a quiet space, you're centered, you've got all your tools in front of you. I encourage you to spill out some colors so you feel comfortable just grabbing them in a reflexive moment. This is your intuition speaking to you. Your intuition is going to tell you when you hear a certain song, I feel green, I feel green, I feel orange, I feel purple. That music, whether it's happy or sad or fast or slow, is going to get a response from you, and we are going to record that response on this paper. And so what you're going to do is you're going to hit the play button and you're going to listen to the song first listen to the song. Do not grab a tool. First, listen to the song. Let yourself grab the tool and then do your Asemic. Now, Asemic writing is similar to me. It's like doodling. Feel free to do whatever comes to you on that paper, even if it's writing words. I don't want you in the mind space. I want you in a reactive space. If you hear the song and you feel a word very strong, write it. If you feel a color, draw it. Now, you have a choice. I'd rather you listen to the whole song, and when it stops, you flip the page, and the next song, trust me, it's going to be a different vibration, a different consciousness, and it's going to inspire you to pick up a different color. And it might be a soft song, and you might find yourself just slowing down and feeling it. And you're going to see how it changes what you do. And in this case, you are, like Eckhart Tolle, you're just watching yourself. Just watching yourself. Be aware that there's no judgment. Do not judge the marks you're making. One thing I've noticed online is a lot of people show a Asemic drawing and then they have this beautiful sort of a calligraphy-like vertical scribble. It's beautiful. And to me, it's too self-conscious. They are trying to make something beautiful. They are trying to imitate calligraphy without doing calligraphy. This, what I want you to do, when I say spiritual Asemic, I want you to feel the spirit within you, and I want you to draw whatever shape, circle, item comes to mind. I don't want you to consciously think, look how pretty I can be. I'm making something very pretty. That is in your head. Do you realize you're in the judgment mode? You want to be just reacting to the song and the paper and feeling it. This is a fun exercise. So make sure that you just stay in the flow and continue to go with no mind. If you feel like your mind is stepping in, maybe you should flip to the next song. That's a good way to know. If my mind steps in and starts evaluating, or I slow down and say, do I have to show this to somebody? What will someone think? What will they think if they see this? If you jump to that, flip the page, go to the next song. I want you to hear the song, feel the song. Hear the song, feel the song. Hear it, feel it, draw. Hear it, feel it, draw. Okay? So, this is a great exercise to practice with Asemic writing. And at the end, when you're done and you've got 7 or 8 pages, take time to reflect back on it. Maybe walk away, go get a glass of water or a glass of iced tea. Come back and look at your pages. See what you think. Try to notice how different you are. And what I want you to notice most importantly is not just the types of marks that you make, because that is telling me and you who you are as an artist. If you pick warm colors, dark colors, if you do straight lines, or if you do curves, this is all telling you who you are. These are the building blocks to an abstract drawing. Okay? But reflect on it. Now, there's many famous artists that have done this kind of work. Cy Twombly is probably my favorite because it's very raw. You can feel it. I'm going to show a couple pictures here. Cy Twombly, famous artist that you could tell was using this Asemic, raw, guttural feeling when he drew. Okay? I'm also going to show you, here's a picture of a painting that I finished this summer. And you can sort of see underneath it where this came from, kind of a scribbling, drawing, feeling pattern. Okay? So, a couple things that I do want to remind you about. Kind of some tips before I show you this QR code and you go out and you do this. First, please feel free to peel the sides of your crayon away, to express and ruin the crayons, to feel whatever you want. Even holding a crayon sideways will give you a different, that's not a good one, a different set of marks, okay? Feel that. Let yourself do that. Do not worry about saving these crayons. They need to look good. They don't. Second, you might try this exercise with your dominant hand, and then try it with your non-dominant hand. That is a great way to explore kind of letting go of that sense of control, because with your non-dominant hand, you kind of have to. I also want to share with you that I knew an artist who would do this blind. He would just close his eyes and do it with his eyes closed. That's another great way to experiment. And when your eyes are closed, it's going to be more of a kinesthetic, tactile experience, because you're going to feel that paper. You're going to feel it. And it's going to let you direct where you go. Now, you're not going to be able to see color as much. You'll have to just pick a color, but you're going to feel it. So what I also want you to do is, once you practice this, see how you can incorporate it into your work right now, the work that you're doing, your regular work. See if you can go back to a painting that you're working on and incorporate some of these marks, or start a painting with this and then go into your normal process, your normal tools about how to build a painting. See what it does. See how it changes it up for you. I want to tell you that I do have a book based on getting more consciously connected to who you are as an artist. It's called The Spiritual Artist. It's on Amazon.com. You can find it there. It's a great book. There's exercises in it. It's all about how to shift the spiritual consciousness of who you are when you enter the studio. I'm excited about this. I think this music activity is so fun. I love music. I love how it affects my body and how it affects my expression. And that is what you're going to look for here. How does your emotional state affect your work? Notice that. And notice that when you're working. I want to share with you, when I'm working on a large painting, it's especially challenging because you have to maintain, in my eyes, you have to maintain the same physical state through the whole painting. I don't want to start a painting in a sense of joy and then end it with anger, because it has a twisted sense to it. Although that can be interesting, there's no right or wrong. But I like to have a continuity through my paintings. And music is one way of holding that note. Get it? Holding that note. Anyway, I want to thank you for following the Spiritual Artist Podcast. Please go up there and follow me on YouTube. I'm really trying to get more followers. I want to get my word out. I want to share how we can all be more conscious creators. Thank you for being a spiritual artist.
Thanks again for listening to the Spiritual Artist Podcast. Whether you're watching this show on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Play, or iHeartRadio, make sure you choose the subscribe button so that you will receive updates when new segments are released. Most importantly, be still, listen, and know that you are a spiritual artist.